Are you ready to dive deep into the intersections of technology, law, and business? Catch the Tech Intersect Podcast on our new Advantage Evans YouTube channel. Whether you're connecting on the go or binging episodes from the comfort of your home, you'll never miss a moment again. Plus, you'll experience all types of exciting shorts, special events content, breaking news lives, and the comprehensive learning series. Subscribe today, hit the bell for notifications, and enjoy podcast videos and more. Use the link or search for Advantage Evans on YouTube to find our channel so you can watch, learn, and engage where insider meets impact. See you there.
I am Cleve Mesidor, and this is Tech Intersect. Even though Black and Latino communities lead national adoption of cryptocurrency, you don't see us when you check mainstream media or even decentralized media. We're even absent on the policy stage in Washington as well. So even though we are fueling some of the largest companies, we're fueling this $3 trillion industry, our stories, our voices are muffled. And it's not just executives and founders and experts, even the policymakers in Washington who are from the Black caucus, the Hispanic caucus, and even who are indigenous, and also, trying to get responsible policy move forward, they don't get any coverage in the media for the work that they're doing. So Butterscotch is really an opportunity to put a spotlight on the earliest and largest adopters of blockchain cryptocurrency, but also to make sure we're capturing those stories and we're telling those stories.
Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tonya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future, because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Tech Intersect Podcast. Here's where we engage with leaders at the leading edge of technology, law, and finance. I'm your host, Dr. Tonya Evans. I am most known for operating on the education and policy side in fintech, the intersection of Web3 and intellectual property. And today, we reconnect with our dear friend to the show and a dear friend of mine. Also happens to be a visionary leader, and that's no cap, as the young people say. We have Cleve Mesidor here, who heads the Blockchain Foundation and is the founder and CEO of Butterscotch Media, and also the author of the Clevolution. So Cleve has been a pivotal figure in advocating for inclusivity in the digital space. She was one of the first people whom I connected with who really illuminated my path and helped me find my way, continues to do so for sure. So she's been pivotal in so many different areas and really pushing the envelope necessarily for inclusion and equity in the space. And Butterscotch Media is the next iteration or the next level of that. It's her latest venture. It's a unique media outlet dedicated to exclusively covering inclusion within Web3, DeFi, and crypto. And in this episode, we dive into its launch, talk about the newsfeed, talk about some exciting media content that's coming. And so I'm glad that you're joining us today as Cleve and I kind of chop it up with all of that and more. But first, Cleve, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, and congrats on the success of the show. My God, it's amazing.
Can you believe that we're still, it's the little engine that could, up to about 208 episodes.
Wow. And the caliber of guests that you have on is amazing. So I'm thrilled to be in the number.
Thank you. Thank you. This is going to be like the Today Show. No, it's going to be like SNL when I'm start giving out jackets. When you get your 5th episode, I'm going to give you a jacket. You'll be the first. It'll be pick and read. Would you mind that?
Love that. Thank you.
Sorry. All right. So let's hop into, first of all, what Butterscotch Media is and the origin story of this venture, the inspiration behind it, and the goals that you aim to achieve with it.
Butterscotch Media is just that, a media platform, but we're focused on news and policy, and we're focused on inclusion. So Butterscotch is really intended to focus on inclusion in Web3 and DeFi. Why? Because even though Black and Latino communities lead national adoption of cryptocurrency, you don't see us when you check mainstream media or even decentralized media. We're even absent on the policy stage in Washington as well. So even though we are fueling some of the largest companies, we're fueling this $3 trillion industry, our stories, our voices are muffled. And it's not just executives and founders and experts, even the policymakers in Washington who are from the Black caucus, the Hispanic caucus, and even who are indigenous, and also, trying to get responsible policy move forward, they don't get any coverage in the media for the work that they're doing. So Butterscotch is really an opportunity to put a spotlight on the earliest and largest adopters of blockchain cryptocurrency, but also to make sure we're capturing those stories and we're telling those stories.
Mm-hmm. So talk about what kind of content you're curating now to give people an idea of what to expect. You have so much, but it's done really well because it's very succinct, it's very clear, it's very visual and beautiful and also important. So talk about the different types of content.
Yeah, so we focus on policy. Policy is our anchor, but we also focus on industry trends, and we focus on market research as well. There's not enough data about inclusion in Web3 and DeFi, so we tease out what are some of the data sets out there and really point out the data that we need to do. We need to start capturing. I will say, stepping back a bit, one of the questions I get all the time is, where did the name come from? Butterscotch. Oh, yes. There's a story behind it. I'm a Gen Xer, a hip hop baby. So a few years ago, Netflix had a documentary called The Get Down. It was based in the Bronx in the early ages of hip hop. And the two main characters were these two college students. And it was, this teenage Black guy who was in love with this Latina in his building. And he wrote her a poem calling her my butterscotch queen. But that always stuck with me. So when I was contemplating what is the name for this platform, Butterscotch just made sense. And I will say that, we're going to be launching a podcast. And even the name of the podcast is The Get Down. So
I love it. You better bring it back around, Gen Xer.
But I will add also, the impetus for Butterscotch is not just, the need to tell our stories. When you look at media today, media is really struggling. We're seeing headlines about journalism dying. But there's another side. Digital niche outlets are thriving. When you look at Punchbowl, Semaphore, Puck, and so many others, these are smaller outlets that were created during COVID, and they focus on popular issues, but are focused on niche audiences. So there's a huge market because the data shows that individuals out there, they want content, but they actually want it from unique sources that they can actually vet and build a relationship with. So for us, it's not just how do we tell the stories, but how do we use a platform approach that actually is where the future of media, the future of news is heading.
I love so much that you focused on media. It clearly plays this crucial role in the advancement of all policy, really, particularly now as we see the inclusivity of blockchain and cryptocurrency. It's not some new thing, as you've mentioned, but really started to reach back, contextualize it, give a voice to the narratives of those who were early that don't look like, I deal with that myth of the crypto bro in my my book, Digital Money Demystified. And that's an important part, to have a clearer narrative around the impact, and people who are not just reading about it and intellectualizing about it and kvetching about it, but who are actually doing things to not only move policy forward, but to impact lives in a way that, when you think about the Satoshi white paper and you think about that conversation and that narrative and the reason coming back full steam forward, why Black people in particular over-index in the crypto. And in fact, if you could kind of touch on that and some of the data points that just show us unequivocally about the over-adoption and the reasons underneath that.
Yeah, and that was another reason for why butterscotch made sense, because market research is at the core of it, because people still struggle to understand why Black Latino communities lead national adoption of cryptocurrency. But the reality is we've seen this globally, where people have been locked out of the traditional financial system, and this is globally, where people have had to look to alternatives, where they couldn't access the traditional financial system. Alternatives make sense. And let's be honest, right? When you look at, blockchain and cryptocurrency, when you look at cryptocurrency, the whole model is around the ways that people who have been locked out have actually been able to create economic opportunity and actually create their own financial system as an undercurrent to the larger system. But absolutely, the only real data we have for this industry right now is data that shows that Black and Latino communities lead national adoption of cryptocurrency. That data started surfacing around 2020. There was a Harris poll, a Chicago NORC poll, Morning Consult did a poll. So we've had server polls that showed we were the earliest adopters. And since then, the data continues to show that we are still the largest adopters. And even recently, when you've seen polls about the crypto voter, really looking at who that crypto voter is, that voter is diverse. And the data actually shows that crypto voter is Black and Latino, but also highly educated, right? And well-resourced, right? We're not talking about the underbanked. They're not single issue voters, but they are conscious about policy. And they do think that, Web3 and digital assets should be part of the larger policy narrative. I think what's been most interesting as we've looked at this data has been that the crypto voter is diverse, and that we will not only continue to fuel this $3 trillion industry, but as policy grows, it is our voices that will have the greatest impact, because we are the ones that are even factoring this in as we actually look at electoral politics.
I'm so glad that you raised that. Recently, for those who don't know, member of the board of Digital Currency Group, VC in the fintech space, a portfolio of over 200 companies operating in the space. We had a founder fly in to take high-level meetings, both on the Senate side and the House side, talking with some folks. One part of our conversation was around decentralized artificial intelligence. We kind of talk about that in a future show, Cleve, but we were also focused on that recent poll. I think you mentioned, or in addition to a Harris poll that was from Digital Currency Group, revealed that 1 in 5 battleground state voters consider crypto a key issue, right? So it's a top of mind issue for sure. And to your point, it's not, for the most part, a single issue voter per se. And actually, I think that speaks volume, because there are many in the crypto community who are single issue voters. I think this is outside of that circle where you start to extend the conversation and the expectation and the unmet needs of that next level, right? Not the OGs who are clear in the space and kind of re-art crypto stuff out of Coinbase, et cetera, but that next level of folks in battleground states, the numbers coming out of that, thinking about a sizable number of voters, overall 40% wish that political candidates talked more about digital currency. A vast majority of both voters who support cryptocurrency and voters overall plan to vote in the elections 90+%, and they're closely split in party lean. So those folks right in the middle, there are folks on either side, they're not going to be moved, but a not insignificant minority is paying attention in the states that matter, right? Yeah. And then side by side, to your point earlier, half of all voters, not just focused on people of color, but the statistics from that report show precisely what you've mentioned, but 48% don't trust political candidates to interfere with crypto. They want people talking about it. They want them informed, and they're paying attention. Talk about the shift that you've seen, because you've been around a long time in your own right. And I feel like we are in a really special and different place.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a pivotal moment. So I definitely commend DCG for partnering with Harris on that poll. And I know you are on their board of directors, and, you know, you were just on Capitol Hill, as you just mentioned, talking to, you know, staffers and policymakers about the importance of this issue. We're at the early stages of the debate of what is the appropriate regulatory and policy framework for digital assets, for Web3. I say this all the time, that in the 1990s, when we debated the internet, the industry was not scrutinized enough. Let's be honest about that, right? The Internet Association was the darling of Washington. They gave them whatever they wanted. And today, we're trying to walk back some of those policies. So, you know, absolutely, policymakers should be cautious this time, this next iteration of, you know, this next iteration of the innovation economy. But, you know, we do need policymakers to be more thoughtful about how they're looking at this issue. And I think too often that policymakers look at this as a crypto bros industry, you know, just a part of Silicon Valley. And the reality is Silicon Valley was late to the game. The reality is that the largest holders and participants are diverse. So that means we need policymakers to have a different conversation. We also need more progressives involved. Democrats are not enough at the table. You know, so we know that, you know, recently there was a bulletin, the SAB 121 bulletin, where the SEC provided some really tough guidance on custody, and the House voted to reverse that. In the House, as the House was about to vote for a bill to reverse that bulletin from the SEC, 21 Democrats voted with Republicans to reverse that, despite the fact that the Biden White House put out a notice that they would veto the bill. And just as we're taping this episode today, the Senate just voted, and 12 Democrats within the Senate voted, you know, to reverse that decision. And that included Senator Booker, Senator Schumer, Senator Rosen. 12 Democrats is huge. So we're seeing the tides turning in terms of more, you know, Democrats, progressives thinking about this issue. But for progressives, they need to consider their constituents. The largest base of the Democratic Party are Black and Latino, are communities that have been marginalized. And if we're engaged, they need to be engaged, and they need to be listening to the communities that are participating. Because right now, sadly, they are not listening to diverse voices.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Have you ever found yourself puzzled, wondering if cryptocurrency is just a fleeting trend, a scam, or perhaps the future? Hi, I'm Dr. Tonya Evans, and I'm here to introduce you to my new book, Digital Money Demystified, your ultimate guide to deciphering the crypto maze. As a legal policy and crypto education expert, I've crafted this book to cut through the chaos, debunk the myths, and tackle the FUD. That's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. From captivating headlines to meticulously sourced data, I guide you through the promises and the pitfalls of digital assets. With 12 chapters and 10 myths dispelled, Digital Money Demystified is designed for investors, business owners, and professionals eager to navigate the digital economy. It's more than just a book. It's a tool for economic empowerment that directs you safely and confidently from cash to crypto. Say goodbye to bewilderment and hello to enlightenment. Transform from crypto curious to confident. Sidestep those scammers and embrace the future of work, wealth, and creativity. Grab your copy of Digital Money Demystified today at the book's companion website, digitalmoneydemystified.com, or wherever books are sold. This is the right book, the right voice at the right time. Don't miss out on the digital revolution. Stop by digitalmoneydemystified.com now. It's very interesting as you kind of walked through the FIT bill and how it's moving through. It makes me think of someone who I did get the great fortune to speak with, Rep. Wiley Nickel, right? Crypto-friendly lawmaker. He seemed optimistic that the measure to overturn SAB 121 would pass, previously passed the House, bipartisan support. This also makes me think of some of the conversations from not just Senator Gillibrand, but also Senator Lummis last week with Tom Emmer. And despite a hyper-partisan environment in an election year, we're decidedly nonpartisan. You know, the issue of whether crypto should be political. The only difference that I see is that, yes, crypto, like anything else, is political because politics is about resources and the allocation of resources. So in that respect, political, but should not be a partisan issue. In fact, I implore progressives who, when we look down the list of topics that are of not just interest, but import, they align so strategically with self-determination and privacy and autonomy, and it doesn't matter who you are. Like, this is a no-brainer. And yet I know I found myself over the years, Cleve, I know you found yourself, and it's just frustrating to have that conversation. It's like, this is what I see that we want from my perspective. This is what crypto is to me and my community from my perspective. We put them over the top of each other and they match. And I just feel like we have got to do a better job. It's the reason I wrote the book. It's like, if you don't do anything else personally in your life, the role that a policymaker, that a legislator, that ultimately creates the framework that the administrative state works within. It's the brick to the mortars. And then we leave the mortar to the subject matter experts, but within a framework that makes sense with the agenda. I feel myself having a rant. I'm going to come back. It's not about me.
No, you're absolutely right. And, you know, you framed a lot of these issues in your book, and I was happy to comment because we need to tell that story about the early days of Web3 and DeFi, but also where it's going. You know, what is the goal here? There's so much that divides us within the digital native community. So, you know, crypto has become so big. I say enterprise blockchain, you know, the private sector where they're creating their private blockchains, that space is growing. But, you know, crypto native spaces, you know, are pretty divided, right? We're divided across protocols. You know, you're either a Bitcoiner or, you know, you're Ethereum all day and night. Or, oh my God, don't even get me started about the XRP community. To lay on politics as another divider just doesn't make any sense. I come from Washington politics. I've been working in crypto for over 6 years, but I worked in Congress and I served in the Obama administration. It was actually during the Obama administration in 2013 that I first learned about Bitcoin. But I know enough, and even when we look back to the 1990s when they debated the policy framework for the Internet Association understood that this had to be a bipartisan approach, right? Mm-hmm. They sought support from both Republicans and Democrats. And I actually talked about this in the last issue of our newsletter for Butterscotch. We need to focus on policy, not politics, because partisanship is going to really screw us policy-wise. right? So right now, we don't have a policy framework. There's the uncertainty around what is the regulatory framework is killing innovation in the U.S. And let's be honest about how Washington works. It takes two parties to advance anything. Even Newt Gingrich knew that and partnered with Hillary Clinton back in the day. The industry, we're going to kill ourselves if we don't realize that to get the policy that we need to be bipartisan. We can't allow partisanship to fester. But because it's also going to divide groups, let's be honest. I am not a single issue voter, and I did not come to crypto. Crypto did not attract me to change my party. That wasn't why I came here. In the hot take that I wrote in the newsletter, I went into that. Right? So we have to stay focused on the prize. The prize is we need a policy and regulatory framework to allow innovation to flourish here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And if we don't stay focused on that, founders and startups will be forced, abroad. Innovation will be stifled here. But here's my caution to everyone. There is an alternative. The alternative is enterprise blockchain. The alternative is traditional finance. We've seen with the Bitcoin spot ETF, so many Wall Streeters who said they would never get into crypto now offer a Bitcoin spot ETF. We're seeing more large banks get into the space. So when you look at enterprise blockchain, Oracle, AWS, VMware, IBM blockchain, they're all building this space. So for those of us who are crypto native, if we don't focus on policy and keep politics out of it, we lose. We're the ones with the largest to lose.
Excellent. And some final words to small and medium-sized business owners. There's so often the conversation in the crypto space is about investment or speculation or use cases around stable coins, et cetera, et cetera. Less attention is given to participating with a business to build the ecosystem, right? If somebody's digging for gold, they're going to need a tent and a tin cup and some, a shovel, right? So how important is it to see on one hand, we're pushing policy initiatives that support a vibrant ecosystem for innovation, but then also to support the innovators in the space through funding, through opportunity as well, and talk to us about the opportunities for small, medium-sized businesses, particularly those owned by people of color.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I worked in Congress. I served in the Obama administration. This was true then, and this is true now. Small business is the engine of the American economy, right? And as we've gone into the 21st century, it's small business and entrepreneurs. This economy is led by mom and pops that have had to innovate, SMEs that have had to compete and look at foreign direct investment, entrepreneurs who fueled the e-commerce game and made the internet this economy that is so boisterous, right? So as we're looking at, the policy framework for, Web3 and DeFi, there's not enough conversation about access to capital for entrepreneurs, incentives to ensure that those who are building here in the U.S. have the resources. When you look at the SBA's 7A loan program, we need to innovate that, and we need to make sure that whether you're building on AI, crypto, VR, that you can access those funds, but also making sure that we have carve-outs for large companies all the time. So we need the federal government to think small. Access to capital is one part of it, especially for diverse entrepreneurs and startups. With the collapse of the banks that continue to happen even since Silicon Valley Bank, the people who have paid the largest price for the collapse of the banking system, at least, medium-sized regional banks, has been small businesses and entrepreneurs. It is the institutions that they were able to tap for funding that have gone away. But also, we need to make sure that, these technologies are accessible and available to small businesses and entrepreneurs. And most importantly, we need to provide regulatory clarity. Like right now, we hear the large exchanges, the large companies in crypto going to Washington telling them, we need regulatory clarity. But who needs it most? It is the restaurants that are creating NFTs for their small businesses. It is the entrepreneurs that are saying, oh, I might create a DAO. To learn a year from now that your business model is illegal, it doesn't make sense. Right? We need to draw the line. The line doesn't have to be set, but at least we know it's here, and that's the starting point. And right now, the regulatory uncertainty is really killing innovation, but the people who suffer most because they can't go overseas. They don't have the luxury of going to Singapore or going to Dubai. Right? So we need our policymakers to remember that small businesses and entrepreneurs are the engine of the American economy. They want to innovate. And if they are to be competitive, we need policymakers, not just at the federal level, but at the state and local level, right, to do more. And shout out to states and cities, because last week, Alabama recently passed a bill to actually look at the framework. We're seeing much more action at the state level, even in some cases the city level, really looking at these issues thoughtfully from the Web3 DeFi space in terms of workforce development, in terms of, repurposing space and looking at creating new industries to help grow their local municipalities. So lots more to do, but policymakers have to step up, because right now they're not doing enough to preserve the infrastructure that they say is so important to America.
I'm so glad you gave the state and local governments a shout out. And I'll give a shout out to Wisconsin, who's at the top of everybody's news feed not everybody, but everybody in crypto. The state of Wisconsin just bought nearly $100 million worth of BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF. The ticker is IBIT. That is not like legal or financial advice. I don't know why I said that. But the state's investment board bought 94,000 plus shares of Bitcoin ETF in the first quarter of the year. That is major news.
Absolutely. When you look at the Ivy Leagues, Harvard and Princeton and, MIT, they've been investing their endowments in Bitcoin for years. But somehow we've put out the message to HBCUs and majority, Latinx institutions that they should stay away.
Yeah, that's a feature, not a bug, right? I remember we talked about that very point when we were assessing, we'll use the word assessing, the Ariel Schwab Black Investor Report of 2022. In fact, I'll drop a link to that previous episode and all of your episodes, because we always have something insightful and empowering to share whenever we get together. And to that end, I want everybody, now that Cleve and I have finished chopping it up, to go directly to the link that you see in the show notes, Butterscotch Media, and subscribe so that you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on from a lens that you don't often hear from. In fact, I can count on one hand also and one finger an outlet that does that consistently, and that's with you, Cleve. So tell everybody where they can learn more about you, Butterscotch Media, and your work, and we will share that in the show notes.
Wonderful. Well, the website is easy. It's just butterscotch.media, and you can catch up on all the episodes there. You can subscribe to our newsletter there. You can follow me on X, formerly Twitter. My handle is @CMESI, so there's a lot of fake profiles out there, but I am just simply CMESI. I've had that handle since, I think, 1995. Oh, I'm dating myself. Well, maybe not 1995. I've been using that. Definitely follow us on the website and sign up for the newsletter. We want to continue to have this conversation. I get feedback all the time from people who say, oh my God, I didn't know that this other aspect of this space existed. And that's what we want to achieve.
Outstanding. Cleve Mesidor, Butterscotch Media, also slaying dragons and wearing capes. I appreciate you. And again, when you're on 5 times, I have to come up with some amazing salmon pink and apple green jacket for you. I'll work on it.
Oh my God. Kiwi, everyone.
Thanks, Cleve.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Tech Intersect podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you love it, please tell the world. If not, go ahead and tell me. And in either case, drop a comment or ping me on social media at IPProfEvans with the hashtag Tech Intersect. And finally, a quick reminder on digital safety. There are a lot of scammers out there impersonating me and others, and I need your help. Now hear this, and remember, I will never slide into your DMs to say peace and blessings or hey, and I will never reach out to solicit your time or your money on social media like ever. I'm not a trader. I am an educator and an attorney licensed in 4 states. Thank you very much. I'm here to inform, inspire, and empower. No cap. And definitely no Forex. So be careful, make good choices, and remember, I developed an entire free masterclass about the topic of digital safety in the crypto space. So check out secureyourcryptobag.com for more information. That's secureyourcryptobag.com. All right, that's all for this episode. Until next time, continue to shine. Hey there, Tech Intersect listeners. Have you ever encountered naysayers claiming crypto is too volatile, a total scam, or a hacker's paradise? Well, it's time to dispel these persistent myths and reveal the truth. It's exactly why I wrote Digital Money Demystified, available now wherever books are sold. And this book is your golden ticket from being crypto curious to radiating crypto confidence. Navigate the crypto world with clarity and conquer the chaos. Get your copy today to learn about my journey, separate fact from fiction, and maybe even embark on a transformative journey yourself. Don't stop there. Enhance your learning experience exponentially. Join the DMD Insiders Membership Club. It's a gateway to premier coaching, engaging community, and unparalleled content that complements the insights in the book. Together, we'll unlock the potential of digital money and stride confidently into the future. Visit digitalmoneydemystified.com, grab your guide to the crypto universe, and become an esteemed member of our Insiders Club. Let's decode the digital dollar and invest in your crypto-savvy future right now.